Good morning, everyone. I wanted to share a video about my story into how I came up with the concept of the Birth to Life Early Care Institute and how I even got into the field. I know I posted a video on my channel and it was quite long, but I wanted to kind of just touch on some things as to why before I decided to become a teacher what led me to this path. I have, quite a big family. I have four other siblings, and I noticed that at one point in time, I really loved school. And then at one point in time, I didn't love school so much. But I remember the times that I really, really loved school, and school was such an enjoyment for me was when I was in my elementary years, particularly. But when I was in kindergarten, I was not one of those children that had the luxury of going to a child care center, a neighborhood child care center. Back in the 80s, when I was growing up, we didn't have a bunch of child care centers then in my area. We didn't even have a Head Start center, and it was very much needed, but we did not have like a bunch of child care centers in that area. So I mainly went to a babysitter. Very nice, lovely woman. But she took care of me as best as she could, and she was very nice, and I would call her Granny because she was an older woman. But however, she was not an ECE professional. So I didn't get those social skills and learning skills and things until I actually went to school. My mom did, teach me some things. I remember her teaching me some things on the chalkboard and, just trying to teach me the best way she could. But to get those foundational skills and those ECE skills that I've learned, I went to kindergarten, and kindergarten was my first time, being able to learn through learning centers. I remember having learning centers in my kindergarten. I notice now that I hear more stories that children really don't have learning centers and nap time and things like that in kindergarten. And I honestly believe that they should bring some of that back as well. But I was one of the benefactors of experiencing learning centers, nap time. And one of the things that I remember having two teachers, but I remember I guess the main teacher, the lead teacher, she was, my kindergarten teachers. I just remember her being very nurturing. She was very nurturing. She was very kind. She was very sweet. I remember her having this dark hair, and this bright smile. And I just remember her just being a pleasant teacher. I remember her just smiling and laughing a lot. I don't know. I just remember this big smile she would have. And, coming from a background like mine, my parents experienced, I would say, a tough marriage. And, I saw a lot of different things. So I've experienced some childhood trauma, but I noticed that, school was like my safe haven too. And now there's so much information. Back then, I don't, I was a child, so at the time I really don't, know. But now there's so much information about mental health. There's so information about childhood trauma, and I'm pretty sure there was things like that too. But it has impacted our field now to the point where, I have learned through the trainings and the opportunities that I've had with children that we create safe spaces within the classroom for children that are experiencing tantrums, trauma, or just need a moment. And those are called cozy areas. So all of those different things has really made a tremendous impact upon me, and I have taken some of the things that I have learned in the ECE field and applied it to myself as an adult, and it's really helped me to understand human behavior and humans, um, more, I feel like I'm more empathetic. I feel like I have more of a graciousness applying to how people learn, how people interact, all of these different things, because I come from a teaching background. And when you come from a teaching background and a background of learning about how how children learn, and how you are supposed to teach to adapt to the different learning styles, you learn about so many different things. And so that has really, really impacted my life. In my previous video, I talked about how, I went through this period where I felt like I was just a confused, like, teenager, young adult, and I didn't know exactly like what path and things that I wanted to be on. Like when I was in college, I went to different colleges. I was changing my major. It seemed like every semester almost, because I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. I was so fixated. At one point in time, I was so fixated on going to culinary school and things like that, but they didn't pan out that way. And I just kind of gave up on that dream, and I just started pursuing other things. But what I noticed is, through this transition of me going to different colleges, changing my major every semester, eventually dropping out and going back to school, my life really changed when I began teaching in the pre-K program. We have a lottery funded pre-K program in the state where I live. So when I started to teach in the Georgia Lottery pre-K program, that's where I felt like my life really changed, because that program was really amazing to me. I learned about, why learning centers are implemented in the classroom and why they're needed. I learned about, the appropriate practices for children, like children shouldn't be learning with worksheets, and they should have hands-on learning experiences. That was the first time where I was working in a particular classroom and program, and if they caught you with a worksheet, you could get in trouble. They didn't believe in children learning through worksheets, having dittos, any of that. And for me, that was a perfect fit for me, because I'm the type of person that really, really loves creativity. And I love, involving people and interacting. I believe in children moving. So, I would sing with the children, even though I don't have the best voice. I would sing, I would do puppet shows with the children. I would transform the classroom with the different themes and have it inviting and fun. And that was just perfect for me. And what I noticed is, a lot of people, when I had the opportunity to work in this type of program and outside of the lottery funded program, your private provider can um, operate private pre-K programs the way they want to. And I noticed that, the private pre-K programs were doing like worksheets and things like that. But at the end of the year, or even before the beginning of the year, I noticed that, our children that were functioning in our program knew just as much as the children that was using those worksheets, and if not more, because they had the opportunity to do project-based learning, learning on the same topic for a number of different weeks through, themes, and expanding upon those themes. So if we was learning about birds, it was in a fun way. They were still building vocabulary. They were still learning science concepts. They were still learning math concepts because they were counting the feathers, just different types of things. And I'm just throwing out some examples of how that would work. And it was amazing. And I noticed during that time too, I don't know how it is now, because it's been quite a while, but I've been teaching for 15 years, but I haven't actually been in the lottery pre-K program for close to 4 years. So I haven't been there for 4 years. But the children in our community, what will happen is, in our neighboring community, the elementary schools would have, like a kindergarten roundup, a kindergarten transition, things like that, or something, where they would go to the school, go visit their kindergarten classes, and they used to give them like some type of assessment. And the parents will always come back and like, they did amazing on their assessment. They, everything that they asked them, or I don't know if it was a scoring system. I don't really know, but I noticed that when the parents would come back and tell us about, our methods and our program, they would say that the children would score quite well. And I just knew right then and there that, it worked. It worked. Those methods of children learning through engagement, through fun activities, through social emotional learning. I knew that it worked and it was life changing. And not only that, is I really, as a teacher, teachers go through so many challenges and so many obstacles. It's unbelievable. One being that, biggest thing is money. Having access to materials, education really costs. And to have a functioning program and make it to really work, you need money, you need funds. But aside from that, through those challenges and all of those different things, because at the time, I mean, I was making like what 675 or something like that, and it was during the Bush years too. So the recession and different things, it was quite difficult. And there are teachers that's still not making a lot to this day. But I noticed that I enjoy teaching that way. It was a lot of work for us preparing because, just think about it. It's easier just to make, excuse me, a copy of a worksheet and just put it down than to create materials, because creating materials and making it inviting and prop building. I was a prop builder as well, meaning that the themes that I had in the classroom, I would build props to have the children engage into the different props to tie in the concepts that we were teaching, whether it was math, social studies, science, whatever it was. That's time consuming. That takes a lot of time. And I got better with it and more. I had gotten better with it for as my time management and being able to duplicate. I'm sorry. Um, use the different materials for many different purposes and kind of reinvent the materials that I already had in the classroom as well. But it is time consuming, and I'm very thankful that our program allowed for teachers to have an hour and a half of planning each day, meaning that that was for assessment, children's reports, getting your classroom together, basic things that teachers will be doing. So, a lot of times, as a teacher, I did a lot of preparation time for that. And, through the years, it became, like I said, more easier because I would have theme boxes and I would kind of reinvent those themes sometimes. And sometimes I would come up with different themes because, if the children were interested, depending on what class I had, if the children were interested in anything, like if they were interested in frogs or worms, and I didn't have that theme, then I will start to build that theme. So I got very accustomed to be also building themes around children, which I'm a strong advocate for as well. I just recently taken a training and it was talking about how, you shouldn't have themes like throughout the year already. Those themes should be, built, it should, based on the conversations of the children, they should be integrated throughout the year. So you shouldn't be getting the paper. And my center currently they kind of do that as well, but I've been trying to advocate for a different type of philosophy with that. Like you can have your, like fall time, that fall time is going to roll around, that springtime is going to roll around, the holidays, things like that. You can still do things like that, but also look for opportunities to have children to build their own theme and have teachers to do that. And it takes, dedicated teachers, and it also takes some skill set and some knowledge as to how you go about helping to build a theme in your classroom. So I definitely went down a rabbit hole. But, I really believe that this type of philosophy would help a lot of different children. Because if we're honest, of course, teachers need to get paid more. They need resources. Class sizes need to be smaller. All of those different things. So, and I could possibly do a separate video on that. But if teachers had the opportunity to teach children more like in a creative way, having more of like the project based themes and things like that, I really believe that children will really grasp on that, and it's much more fun, and it's much more fun to teach those concepts. And like I mentioned before, there were times because of the challenges that I did want to give up on the field, here and there. Because, like I said, it can be very challenging with the different type of behavior. I think my biggest challenge was probably dealing with challenging behaviors in the classroom. I think that if I had to pick a challenge, that would be it, dealing with challenging behaviors. But aside from that, I love really teaching children. I just love having fun with children and teaching them in a hands-on way, and I done all kinds of things, have a morning circle outside. We would do, when I was teaching math concepts, I would tell them to get the chalk and the leaves and the sticks and things like that. And we would count that way. I just really believe that children should have those hands-on experiences. It should be fun and engaging in the midst of some other principles that ECE professionals do. So I just wanted to give, a backstory as to like why I fell in love with it. I just think that once they told me that I didn't have to use any worksheets, everything was going to be hands-on creative. I mean, just imagine if you didn't have that experience as a child and, your teacher was doing things like that. Just imagine how that would make you feel if you wanted to study pizza. I remember one time I took on a pizza thing because I was asking the children, I said, what do you want to study? Tell me what you want to study. And one of them was like, pizza. I want to study pizza. And I was like, you know what? And the other children were like, yeah, that'll be fun. And, I was a pre-K teacher at the time. And I tell you, that was one of the best things I believe that I helped develop because, the children, we really got into so many different things. We talked about how pizza is made and how the slices are cut. So we got into a lot of different math concepts. We talked, it was a lot of science concepts we covered because we talked about how ingredients are made. And then they made their own pizzas one day. And then, I needed children to really build some writing skills in my classroom. So we made pizza Play-Doh, all of those different things. And, I never would have thought about doing a theme about pizza. And there's so many books, children's picture books on pizza as well. So that was an awesome theme that we did. We had an amazing time. It was so much fun. And I still have pictures from that theme too, as well. I still have some pictures from that theme. But I just wanted to, tell my story as to how I got into the field and also and why I'm doing my company, why I created this company, Birth to Life Early Care Institute, is because I really believe that all of the things that I have learned, I really feel like lives have been transformed. And honestly, if I was not in this field, I believe that I wouldn't have known the knowledge and the different skills and the different things that I've learned. I wouldn't have known it because I wouldn't have been in this field. And so what I want to do is tell the world, tell parents, tell teachers, tell administrators. I offer parent coaching through my Facebook website as well. And you can email me at birthtolife5@gmail.com. So I offer parent coaching. I offer virtual home visits because the things that I'm mentioning, I can teach families how to integrate this into a learning environment inside of their home so that children will learn the different skills that they need to know, and they're foundational. So it's just going to build and build and build, and you're going to see a successful child as well. So I offer these services, and that's reason why I created Birth to Life Early Care Institute. I have such a big vision for Birth to Life Early Care Institute, but I do give out resources through my Facebook page, through my Instagram page as well. I have a podcast to teach parents how to, do certain techniques inside of their home and build connections with their child to make it successful. That's what it's about. It's not necessarily always about perfection. And it's not really about perfection, but it's about getting those tools in your toolbox and really developing those tools, implementing those tools, and really building connections with your child so that you will see success and they will become successful and empowered. So it was very, very, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to discuss my story with you all. Look forward to other videos and have a wonderful day.